Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to the DFS pregame show here on RotoGrinders. I'm Jordan Cooper, aka Blender Ed, Blender HD, if you want to follow me there on Twitter. And it's Casual Friday. Casual Friday, we get to relax, right? Doesn't everything look casual now? No, it looks the same, right? We're always casual here. But today, we'll be talking about a whole bunch of things, answering your questions in the YouTube chat. Got some MMA stuff, maybe soccer. Soccer's tomorrow. MMA's tomorrow. NFL preseason. I'm not playing NFL preseason, but if you want to, look at something like that, that's fine. MLB tonight. I don't know. I haven't even looked at the slate. I don't know what the hell's going on, but we can take a look. So anything you want, anything goes on Casual Fridays. First thing you need to do, give me those thummy thumbs. Thummy thumbs, ups and downs, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if it's up. It doesn't matter if it's down. Give me the thummy thumbs. Give me the subscribe button if you're new here. Give me the notification bell to know when we go live. There'll be a lot of stuff now. If you put the notification bell when NFL season starts up, we got a ton of content on the way. The NFL schedule for RotoGrinders for media should be out early next week. We got some shows. We got some premium shows. We got everything for you here. But I see you in the YouTube chat. Lee Palm, who beat out Suki Singh. Typically, Suki is the first one here, but Lee Palm got 10 minutes early. So I see you guys: Jerome Lewis, Edward Brown, Andrew Garcia, Card Fan, Ryan Edwards, Daniel Hutchins, Tim Light, Web T, thank you, Web T, Web Tie. I don't know, one of those. Doug Montgomery, Kevin TG, right? We got Devin in the chat. Always wave hi to him. Hey, Devin. Okay. Eli should be back soon, right? Eli's been away for a while. But yesterday's slate, is there a point to talk about yesterday's slate? I did not do well. I did not do well yesterday. It was a mix of having a little too much Patrick Corbin. Yeah, that didn't go well. Kikuchi was high owned. I had plenty of Kikuchi, but not. I was under the field on Kikuchi. Plenty of I was way over on Scherzer, less on Sale. So like pitching wise, like Eliezer Hernandez didn't really get there. Alex Wood didn't really get there. Like what was Hernandez? Like I must have been way over on Hernandez. Yeah. So, well, 17 points ain't bad for his price, but 9% owned. I had like 30% of them. Right. Didn't have much Darvish. Actually, I played the Dodgers against him. Had a decent amount of Keller, but about the field. My most exposed guys were more. Yeah, I didn't play anyone down here. But I had like 30% Corbin. I had like 18% Kikuchi, but I had like 70% Scherzer. They fit in. You can build any lineup you want yesterday. There were too many cheap batters. But the Boston, the Red Sox were the chalk. And if you had Bobby Dahlbeck in that stack, you had 7 RBIs? You had 43 points. And then you also had the Indians. I mean, it's like the stack as a whole, individually, there were some missing pieces, right? Vasquez, Verdugo, Kiki Hernandez. Is this updated? I thought he got more points than 9 points. JD Martinez. I'm not sure if this is updated. But like I had a bunch of the Giants, and that didn't work out. But it's like you needed the main pieces. You needed Dahlbeck. You needed Joe Ram over here with 33 points. Bradley Zimmer in the outfield. I think it was the highest scoring outfielder. You needed something like that. So you needed several key pieces. Because the Yankees, like I had a bunch of the Yankees. Yesterday, Yankees, I think, were my most exposed team. Yankees, Giants. And the Yankees, they were hitting home runs, right? Judge got there. Stanton got there. Gallo got there. Didn't matter at all. And you could still fit those lineups with Scherzer in there. Play Scherzer at 7K. Eliezer Hernandez. and then you could fit anything you want. But like the Diamondbacks went off. I had a good Cardinals lineup, even though I didn't have that much of them. But that didn't get there, right? Because I didn't have a third baseman that was worth a crap. I didn't have a first base, right? If you didn't have Bobby Dahlbeck, don't even consider. What's the first non-Dahlbeck lineup up here? Oh, this one, the one that won. You didn't even need Dahl. Don't tell me you didn't even need Dahlbeck to win. Or is this not updated? We have to see if this is updated. No, we had 43. We have him in the database. You're telling me that a non-Dahlbeck lineup won the bat flip yesterday? Well, Owen Miller had a home run. Okay. Well, I guess that allows you to get Ramirez, and you have Carson Kelly as a one-off. Okay, I am Miguel Rojas as a one-off for 20 points. Solak at second base. Yeah, I guess you get enough points. Right, you go down over here. Here's another. Here's Owen Miller. Right, the 5-man Cleveland stack. Right, Pete Alonso in this one, but you still needed Cleveland. So 5-man Cleveland. Here's the Boston. This is the full Boston stack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Straw and Zimmer. Defoe, 1% owned with 17 points. Scherzer Sale. Right, because these are all cheap. Well, this is Scherzer, Eliezer Hernandez. It's like the Cleveland stack. I mean, Straw was like what, 3,000. Zimmer's 2,600. I mean, Dahlbeck's under 3K. I mean, see, all these lineups, like these are all like Scherzer Sale type of lineups, and I wasn't really building those types of lineups because this is so chalky. I mean, like it's just you have one piece in here. I'm just not going to build these types of lineups. When the top scores are in the low 200s, that means I probably didn't do very well. It's Pat with the St. Louis, Boston, Cleveland kind of mix. But not many catchers scored enough points. Like Carson Kelly did. So this is an Arizona, Cleveland 5-3. On most days, this would be good enough, but it wasn't. 210 wasn't good enough. Nerdy Tenner's best lineup was a 5-3 Cleveland, Boston. All right, but then you're stuck with Rosario and Kiki Hernandez, and that doesn't just give you enough. And Eliezer Hernandez, you're still, 15 points behind first place. Joe Paradox is just a mess. Then you get the messy lineups, right? Just a bunch of people, just a bunch of one-offs, whatever happens. The Colts, what was his best lineup? Cleveland 5-man, and Perez got he scored, right? He had a grand slam. Edman, but then you have Kikuchi. Basically, Kikuchi's destroyed him. Right? He could have won with this lineup. Kikuchi didn't give up that. Did he play a pitcher and a batter against each other? That's weird. Was that on purpose? Because I was going to say, if Kikuchi didn't give up the grand slam, he may have done well enough. But if he didn't get the grand slam, Sal Perez wouldn't have gotten 20 points. Very weird. Maybe it does make sense. Maybe you couldn't have one batter against your pitcher as long as it's in, scarce position like Perez. I don't know. This is weird. I rarely ever see on a normal size slate any sharp player that's playing like a batter against their pitcher. Is that the new in thing? I don't know. I mean, it didn't work out. Obviously, you destroyed the ceilings of both players. You needed Sal Perez to hit that grand slam off the bullpen, not off Kikuchi, because that dropped his point. That dropped him like 12 points. Odd. BK Reader. Cleveland. It's mostly Cleveland. It's going to be Cleveland or Boston. I mean, it's essentially the chalk. I mean, if we take a look, what was the chalk? Cleveland and Boston. Right. You have a mix of other stuff in here a bit once you get into the 8 to 10, 12% range. But Schwarber's 30%. Ramirez is 21%. Verdugo's 20%. Vasquez 17%. Kike is 17. JD is 16. And then you get Rosario and you get Framil Reyes. And then who else? And you get Miles Straw down here. Right. Some of the Zimmer, 8%. I mean, some of the Cleveland pieces weren't like absurdly owned, but they were the two chalky stacks, and that's what you needed. That's what you needed yesterday. The chalk. The chalk, it seems like just the MLB. When does the chalk fail? It does. I mean, the chalk still fails. We just remember the times where it doesn't. Because if you're someone that doesn't play as much of a chalk as anyone else, it feels like oh, okay. Oh, the 27% don't batter as 2 home runs. And I have him in like 3 lineups. It's like I hope those 3 lineups do well. Going through the YouTube chat. Michael Dompia says he probably had he probably had Will Smith. And he had to late swap. Wouldn't you just late swap to Austin Barnes and just leave money on the table? Maybe. So he's saying, so okay, so now I get it, because those are the late games, and you had one off of Smith, and you had to choose between Sanchez or Sal Perez. So why not choose Sanchez and leave money on the table? Why not play Austin Barnes? Austin Barnes had a home run. Austin Barnes actually hit a home run yesterday. I mean, it wouldn't have changed anything for the Colts, right? You wouldn't have had Perez. He would have had Austin Barnes' home run, and Kikuchi would have still given up the grand slam. But I was way under on Sale yesterday. I think most of the field was. I mean, Cheese wasn't. He got 25 points. It's just that, I don't know what, it was a 9-game slate, and we already had Scherzer on it, and I wasn't really looking to play lineups that were Scherzer Sale. I chose between the two, and with Sale only pitching 71 pitches the last start, I'm not sure how long. Are they going to let Sale pitch 110 plus pitches? No. Scherzer they would. So that to me, that was the decider. Like most of my lineup constructions are going to have a high price pitcher, and I don't want to play both of them together as much. So that's why I was 70% Scherzer and like 16% Sale. And the same thing with the Kikuchi, right? Instead of playing Kikuchi, I'm playing Eliezer Hernandez or Patrick Corbin. Then I'm throwing in some Alex Wood in the mid-range, some other builds, and then there you go. Brad Keller, same thing, 5,200. 6 points. I mean, he did better than Kikuchi. Then I didn't want to play Darvish at all. Darvish rejected much poorer than both Scherzer and Sale, so. And then people wouldn't play the Dodgers against Darvish, so it makes the Dodgers even lower. You don't get as much relative value because Darvish is only 9% owned. So, going through. I mean, this is pretty much what you do. Gallen had a good game, even though I played the Phillies against him. It was one of those slates where I had it halfway through it. I'm just should I even bother sweating this? Right? Like I've got Corbin in 3rd of my lineups. That's dead. Other teams, the Pirates are going off. The Diamondbacks are going off. I may have 1 or 2 of those types of lineups. And the Boston's starting to put up runs. Cleveland, Zimmer is going nuts. Joe Ram, I'm done. I'm done. Straw's leadoff home run. It's like, okay, that's the end of this. Close the laptop. How many of these lineups could I possibly have? I have Straw in 1 lineup and Zimmer in like 2 of them. And I don't think they're in the lineups with Straw. Then the Joe Ram, and I don't have that. That's why I didn't even bother. Past like 9 o'clock, I was like, I'm done. Like, yeah, I got the Yankees coming up. So unless they put up like 45 runs, I'm probably dead. Probably dead. Let's see. Okay. So what are we going to talk about today? It's Casual Friday, so it's up to you. Looking through the bat projections. What do we got here? What are the stacks? What do the stacks look like today? Ceiling wise. Oh, Tampa Bay against Harvey. Okay. San Diego against Packy Naughton. Who the hell's Packy Naughton? Who's Andrew Alberts? Who are these people? Who's Glenn Otto? Who are these people? Who are these people? But it's San Diego? Looks like San Diego, Milwaukee, Baltimore against McClanahan. You want to do that. Nationals against Rich Hill. As far as like point per dollar values. Tampa Bay with the highest ceiling by like 7 points here. And from a pitching perspective, I still think, Gilbert is probably a little bit too cheap. He's going to be chalky. I don't think he's going to be 10% donut. I think he'll be more than that. Got Odorizzi against Texas at only 6,700. Nola and Cole will probably get the ownership as a 10K pitcher. Musgrove's there at 9,600. I don't think he's going to be 33% though. This is initial ownership runs. I don't know what Gausman's pitch count's going to be against Atlanta. I don't think he's even going to be 11% though. Or 19% for Eduardo Rodriguez. Is that going to happen at 9,400? I don't know. I think we'll see a lot of if you're going to build high, it's going to be Nola plus Cole. And if you're going to build low, it's going to be one of those two plus Gilbert or Odorizzi. That's probably going to be the chalk type of build. I don't think Musgrove gets the 33% ownership. And hitters, what's our initial ownership run on hitters? Teoscar's going to be the highest owned? I don't know about that. Still going to get Boston chalk, right? Still going to get that. Toronto, Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay makes sense, obviously, against Harvey. But they're priced up fairly. I mean, low. Cruz is 5,300. So as of right now, it looks like Toronto, Tampa Bay. And anything. Boston, I guess, a little. It's Logan Allen. We don't know. And we don't have starting lineups out. So who knows? Do we even have are these even the right pitchers? Right? Sometimes we don't even have the right pitchers. It's going to be a bullpen game. Is this guy going to start? Are they going to, right? Zach Thompson. Didn't he pitch yesterday for the Marlins? Didn't he come in after? No, Thompson pitched. Okay, Thompson pitched for the other Thompson pitched for the Nationals after Corbin came out. And who's Glenn Otto? I don't even know. Andrew Albers. Who's he? Keegan Thompson. He sucks. Patrick Naughton. Is he a reliever? What's going on? That's why these team totals are high. Right? Looking at team totals, Philadelphia's at over 5. Tampa Bay's at 6. The Mets are at 5. Boston's at over 5. Toronto over 5. Houston over 5. The White Sox over 5. Milwaukee over 5. And we don't have a line in that game yet. We don't have a line in some of these games yet. And how much can we talk about today's slate? It's 11 o'clock a.m. I don't know. Edward Brown, how big do your balls have to be to play Cruel tomorrow? What, the Norwich goalkeeper? There's no problem with playing Cruel tomorrow. They're goalkeepers. If you're not playing any Leicester City tomorrow, then play Cruel. I think I'll have some Cruel lineups. Leicester has not looked that good, and like Norwich has played the two best teams in the league. Yes, they're the worst. Yeah, they're the worst team in the Premier League. They just came up from the championship. They're a promoted side. They're probably going to be relegated. They're most likely to be relegated. Sure, yes. But these first 2 games they're playing, they're going to look horrible against Manchester City, of course. Anyone, most teams will. Half the teams in the league would. Leicester? Leicester's a good team, but they're not. Leicester isn't at the same level as Man City or Liverpool. Probably not even barely at the same level maybe as Tottenham or Chelsea. Yeah, they're probably not Norwich, right? Leicester, Chelsea's better than Leicester. I put Leicester more towards the Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United. Well, Man United's pretty good also. So Leicester isn't that. Leicester isn't favored by that much. And Leicester's like a minus 170 favorite. Minus 150 or something over Norwich. Man City was like a minus 1,200 favorite over Norwich last week. So you can't go by their performance. Don't go look at the game log. Yeah, he gave up 5 goals, of course. It's the best team in the league against the worst team in the league. They're the Leicester players, you may not. They're good in GPP. I don't think the Leicester players are going to be that popular tomorrow on the EPL slate. It's a 5-game slate. So if we even take a look, let's see. Where's the soccer stuff? Draftkings soccer. Let's see if Alex and Sean put up some tags and stuff. Well, little. I mean, didn't put any blurbs yet. We got James Ward-Prowse. He's going to be chalky. Right. I mean, Bertrand's probably not fit. Right. If Bertrand's in, then you play him at 3,900 if he's taking set pieces for Leicester, but I don't think he plays. But I mean, even if you just take a look at the goalkeeper projections, which trust me, doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, it's all about even, right? Krul, Guaita, right? Would you rather play the Crystal Palace goalkeeper away to West Ham or Norwich goalkeeper home against Leicester? I'd rather play Krul. But it's goalkeeper. Remember, it's the most variant position in soccer DFS. He could give up 1 goal and have 7 saves and be the highest scoring goalkeeper, even after the guy that has a shutout. Right? McCarthy shuts out Newcastle and has 10 points because he has no saves. Krul gives up 1 goal and has 7 or 8 saves. Gives up 2 goals. I mean, they'll have more points. So no, it's not crazy. And I'm expecting Krul to actually be fairly popular. I think Krul may even be one of the most owned goalkeepers in cash games on DraftKings. So I don't think there's a goalkeeper worth paying up for. No one's that big of a favorite. West Ham is the biggest favorite on the slate, and it's not. We're not talking about minus 400, minus 500 favorite. Like Ederson last week. Yeah, you're going to play 5,900 or 6,000, whatever he was, for a goalkeeper with a clean sheet odds of like 63%. Yeah. Fabianski isn't even close to that. So no, it's not crazy to play Tim Krul tomorrow. It's actually not crazy. It's probably more likely that you would than you wouldn't. Eric Hiltpold, NFL Cash Games. Can you remind about general correlation stacking strategies for cash? There's none. Cash games, you don't care about that. Okay, there are 3 levers of DFS. Okay, I talk about this in the Theory of Daily Fantasy Sports, which is I could always throw that on the screen for advertisement, right? I talk about this in my 15-hour audio masterclass, right? So you can pick this up at theoryofdfs.com. Okay, there are 3 levers, primary levers in DFS: projection, correlation, and leverage. Okay, so projection is like what is the range of outcomes of the player? So when we look at lineup HQ, we're talking about the median fantasy points and the range, right? Because we see floor, ceiling, it's a distribution. So this would be projection. Correlation would mean, well, if Teoscar Hernandez does well, it's more likely that Bo Bichette also does well. It's more likely that Vlad Guerrero. It's more likely. And if Hernandez does badly, it's more likely that Bichette does badly, right? So in NFL, quarterback, wide receivers, guys on the same teams, where one guy gets points, the other guy gets points, that's correlation, right? So Tyreek Hill has a good game. Most likely Patrick Mahomes also has a good game. But if Tyreek has a bad game, then it's most likely Mahomes has a bad game. Okay, so that's the second lever. That lever adds variance, right? Because you're tying players together. So you can get a bunch of people that do well, a bunch of people that don't do well. Then you have leverage, which is pretty much ownership. Utilizing ownership to exploit the field. So the lower owned your players are, the more valuable their points are. The more higher owned they are, the less valuable they are. Okay, so those are the 3 levers of DFS. Now, when you're playing cash games, what's the difference between cash games and GPPs? The one big difference, and it changes everything, is that cash games are not progressively payout structured contests. You're going to play 114-man double up. The top 50 double their money. So if you come in 50th, it's just as good as coming in first. So those extra points you get from 50th to first are useless. So you want to aim You want to optimize. You want to maximize your probability of coming in 50th. Not coming in first. You're not maximizing for that. Coming in first. Just coming in 50th. So you don't need the highest score. You just need a high enough score, which means you're going to be focusing more on the median than on the ceiling of players. You're going to be focusing more on the median of your lineup than the ceiling of your lineup. You're going to be focusing on lowering your variance, the variance of your lineup, rather than increasing it. You'd rather get within a narrow range than have a lot of correlation, so you have a wider range. And leverage-wise, you don't need it. In fact, you prefer to have negative leverage, right? When in doubt, I could choose between two players in my lineup at the same price, same whatever. One's going to be in cash, in double ups, 40% owned, and one's going to be 10% owned. I'll take the 40% owned guy. That leverage of having this 10% owned guy, what does that get you? Once you get to the 50th spot in the double up, once you get to the halfway point, you don't get any more, you don't get anything. You either double your money, you don't. 50-50, head-to-head, whatever. All you have to do is get to the median. So in cash games, in any sport, you're more likely to play higher owned lineups that have less correlation. They're not good for GPPs because you're not increasing the variance and you're not getting leverage. So for NFL cash games, you're more like, oh, well, if I'm going to play this wide receiver, I should play the quarterback. No, don't even think about it. Play the best point per dollar value for your entire lineup, and it doesn't matter. That means you're playing the 2K defense against your running back. Who cares? Well, that's negative leverage. Well, it's cash games. You actually almost prefer that instead. You just optimize by ownership, you'd be fine. Now, in GPPs, it's a progressive payout structure. You come in a 114-man GPP, maybe you have to come in 20th place just to double your money, not even 50th. And then every more points that you get more money. And it gets very steep towards the top. So those points up there by the ceiling are worth a lot of money. In double ups, they're worth like nothing. So your goal is to aim for that top over there. So you need to increase your variance. You need to add leverage. So GPPs, you're most likely going to be stacking. You're most likely I'm going to fade this running back and play the lower owned running back. You're more likely to do things like that. But in cash games, you're just looking to optimize and maximize for that 55th percentile outcome for your entire line. So that's why, like in NFL, those three levers, like, you know what the lever you need? The projection lever. And that's pretty much almost everything is going to be the projection lever. And then you look at the other two levers, the correlation and the leverage levels, you'd actually rather them be the reverse. Do I have too much correlation? Too much? Am I going way off the board in my cash games? Probably want to tone that down, even if the projection is decent. I'll sacrifice, actually take a slightly lower projection so I have a higher owned player in mind. Sometimes that's the best move. So don't worry. Like cash games, you're not worried. Like in baseball, if you're playing baseball cash games, I don't care about stacking cash games in baseball. Yet in GPPs, that is what you're doing. You're not going to play 8 one-offs, but in cash games you would, because who cares about the correlation? Some guys 2,600 when they should be 3,800. You play that guy. Doesn't matter what team they're on. Brett Booth, in process. I think we're talking about soccer. What's the process for determining a floor for forwards for cash lines? Projection only gives median, not a one standard deviation range like MLB. In soccer, we'll go to the soccer forwards, especially. It applies to everything. Typically, if they're center forwards, if they're players that don't do much else other than score goals, and they don't touch the ball that frequently, typically they're the high variance. Those are the wide range of outcomes players. Like I take a look at Adam Armstrong here, right? Adam Armstrong, 7K. He has a rejection of 12.64. I can tell you he's not getting to 12 without a goal or an assist, I guess. He's not just, oh, he's going to cross and then he's going to shoot. No, he's a center forward. Ivan Toney, same thing. Callum Wilson, same thing. Danny Ings, same thing. Like you just go by fantasy points. You're going to get Antonio, right? He's 15 points. Yeah, maybe he'll take 6 shots. Yeah, you could do that. But I mean, his points are going to come primarily 11.7. You need like 2 goals for that price. Vardy, same thing. Jared Bowen, on the other hand, plays wide. And he has a half share of the set pieces, taking the free kicks. Jared Bowen could get to 12 without a goal or an assist. Pascal Gross could get to 11 without a goal or an assist. Even Anwar El Ghazi, he plays wide. He draws fouls. He crosses the ball, takes some shots. You can look at all the peripheral stats. So he would have a higher floor. Anyone that gets more peripheral points than goals and assists. So that's how you have to think when you're thinking about floor, especially when it comes to forwards. Is if we just removed goals and assists from the slate completely, that every game is going to end 0-0. Who would the best plays be, point per dollar? Well, Antonio wouldn't, Vardy wouldn't, Armstrong wouldn't, Bowen could get there. Gross could get 12. 12 points is a goal's worth of points. So if you say that there's going to be no goals on this slate, that means Antonio busts, Vardy busts, Armstrong busts, Bowen could get there, Gross could get there, El Ghazi maybe could get there. Iheanacho, if he plays, won't be in there. He's a striker. Ings is a striker. Adams, Wilson, Toney, all these guys. Ben Rama's a little bit more active, but I wouldn't pay 10-3 for him. Zaha could get there. Zaha has a lower floor than Bowen or Gross, but Zaha could draw 3 fouls, 2 crosses, 2 shots. Maybe he gets 10 points without a goal and assist. Calvert-Lewin, no, that's likely not going to happen. Calvert-Lewin's right in the center. He could go an entire half and only touch the ball 6 times. 2 of those times are shots, and if they go in, they're great. But if they don't, he's sitting there with 2 points. But like Alan St. Maximum, he's more active. Richarlison's more active. Townsend's more active. Mbueno's more active. Right? But these projections are going to show like the anytime goal scoring odds for like these guys are like 50% on this slate. Or a little bit, like 45%. So if a goal is worth 12 points, that means 6 points is already baked into this for 1 goal and probably another 2 points for the brace. So Antonio, like half of his projection is him scoring at least 1, if not more goals. Same for Vardy, which means you take away 6 to 8 points from all these types of guys. Their scores don't look all that well, right? Maybe not Bowen, but Armstrong, Vardy, right? Vardy's 9,500. Imagine if he doesn't score. He's going to be sitting there with 4 points, 5 points, maybe. Now, for GPPs, you're looking for goals. Yeah, obviously. These guys have upside for 2. They score 2 or 3 in a game. But for cash games, you're more likely to look at Bowen, Gross, Mbueno, Richarlison even, Trossard, Almiron, if you want to punt even lower. Rajishka, if he starts, I'm not even sure about that for Norwich. Like, if you look at the formations of the teams, like I'll even show you. Like, go to SofaScore. You could check before at 9 o'clock Eastern, they'll start posting the formations of the starting lineups. But they have the projected, right? What they think. Right? So we take a look at Newcastle, Southampton. They put the possible lineup. So this is Newcastle's lineup. Now, typically they play with Richie and Murphy more as wingbacks. And Alan St. Maximum typically plays almost as a number 10. He goes all over the place, and Callum Wilson kind of just is sitting there in the middle. So it's more likely that the wide players, like Sean Longstaff, is a central defensive midfielder. He ain't gonna get wide. You can't cross from the middle of the field. So he may get some tackles and stuff, but he's not gonna get forward. Willock and Almiron are gonna be getting forward and filling the center space. Richie comes up the wings, and Murphy comes up the wings. So anyone that attacks from in these areas, in these wide forward areas, are typically good for peripheral points. And the guys that play right in the center are good for scoring goals, because typically that's where the pass is going to go. Right? You're the closest to the goal, so you're more likely to score a goal. Then we take a look at Southampton. They play in a weird, they do play in a weird formation. Typically, Walcott is more wide. Gineppo would be more wide. And then you have two. Adams and Armstrong are both kind of like, they don't really move wide. Southampton plays more of a 4-4-2 type of system with like two pure strikers. So from a peripheral point perspective, you'd rather have Walcott and Gineppo, who are cheap, than Armstrong or Adams. But for upside, you'd rather have Armstrong or Adams. Right? Take a look at Norwich, Leicester. You go to like Leicester's lineup. Like Vardy, he's sitting there right up top. Center, forward. Which means he has the best chance of scoring goals. But he ain't going to do much else. Who's he crossing it to? He's the one up there. Who's the one he's setting a chance for, creating a chance for? No one. He's the one. It would be Madison, Barnes, Pereira if he starts. Obviously, he could start more forward. This could be Albrighton tomorrow. I don't know. So the fullbacks move forward. So basically, Barnes and Pereira here are more likely to be good peripheral plays. Madison, okay. Center, not crossing, but still taking shots and creating chances. And the guys that are in the back, like Ndidi, Ndidi's a defensive midfielder. So he's going to be sitting in the center all the time, protecting the back line. So from a peripheral perspective, that's why he's like 3,400, right? That's why he's cheap. Right? And same thing for the center backs. Like they ain't going forward. They really ain't getting peripheral points. Did they show up for the goal? Sure, once in a blue moon, yes. But that's how you would determine. So even though on the you don't get this floor ceiling type of stuff for the soccer projections, that's how you should be really thinking about it. It's like in cash games. you're probably not going to see Vardy in my line. Probably. I'm saying the word probably. You're not going to see Vardy in my line. You're not going to see Antonio at 11-7 in my line. You may not even see Antonio at 11-7 in any of my lines. You're not going to see Che Adams in my cash line. It's just not going to happen on a 5-game slate. You're going to see the guys that can at least get 8 to 10 points without having to worry necessarily about scoring a goal or getting an assist. Peter Corey, how much Al Hassan will I have tomorrow? I'll talk about MMA in a second. Just want to get the questions out of the way. Eric Hilpold, how about large field versus small field GPPs? Do you take a more cash games like approach for small field? No, I actually do the complete opposite. I've said this before. It's easier to find leverage in the small field contests because people do that. I'm exploiting that. Doesn't mean you have to go nuts, though. No, it just means that the players that are going to be high owned are going to be even higher owned in single entry or 3 max 50 to 1,000 field size type of GPPs. So if you have a running back, let's say Dalvin Cook is 33% owned in the million maker. Well, it's quite possible in the small field GPP is 45%. Right? Whatever the chalk $4,200 wide receiver that's 20% owned in the milli maker, he's 40% owned in the small field content because people are playing more of a cash type of lineup. So does that mean then you fade all the chalk? No, that doesn't mean that. It just means that it's much easier to find leverage points. So you could say, well, if Dalvin Cook's going to be 45% owned on a 12-game NFL slate in the single entry contest, I'm going to play Joe Mixon here instead, especially if people are playing the Bengals passing attack or something. And all the players that are like 10% owned in the milli are going to be like 5% owned in single entry 3 max. So you get more leverage. Does it mean you play 10 of those people? No. It means you can play 2 of them. Find 1 or 2 leverage points. And there you go. And then the rest of your lineup could be chalky as hell. Very similar to MMA. It's like the guy that's going to be, the fighter that's going to be 48% owned in the Bloodfield GPP, maybe in the 555, maybe 67% owned. So you know what I'm more likely to do? Play the fighter against that guy in the 555. Because if that guy loses and the underdog wins at 5% ownership, that's the only leverage point I need. I'm killing two-thirds of the lineups. I'm getting a 5% owned fighter that's in the winning lineup. You know what's the other 5 spots in my MMA lineup are? The chart, however else it fills out. Now in the large field GPP, yeah, he still may be the highest owned fighter, but he's nowhere near as high owned as he would be in the 555. So it gives you more opportunity to get leverage in your lineup. So just like in baseball, in the 121, like you won't see me play the top owned stack or anything. I may even play the pitcher against it, right? The top owned, I may play the stack against the top owned pitcher in the single entry because I know that pitcher is going to be even more owned. Like if I was playing the 121 yesterday, I possibly would have played the Royals stack in that. If Kikuchi was going to go over owned, right? Maybe you don't stack against Scherzer or Sale. If Kikuchi is going to be 23% owned in the large field, he may be 32% owned in the small field. And as an SB2 type of pitcher, I'll play the Royals at basically no ownership. Kill a third of the lineups and bink that way. But people don't think that way. They go, oh, well, that's risky. It's like, yeah, I'm aiming for first place. But after I do that one thing of like fade Kikuchi, play the Royals, I could have 3 Boston bats. I could have Kyle Schwarber in that lineup if I want. I could have Max Scherzer in that lineup. I've already made that one huge leverage point that I can make because the ownership gets so condensed. And the rest of my lineup could be, play wherever you want at that point, whatever the best projection is at that point. You're fine. Let's see. Daniel says FD soccer is so bad, so you play there at all? No, I don't play FanDuel soccer. Anything I talked about soccer today was based on Draftkings. It's a whole different scoring system on FanDuel. So don't take anything that I said. Actually, in the cash games, you're more likely to on FanDuel, you're more likely to play the goal dependent guys because no one gets points otherwise. It's and you're playing the worst central defenders because they're going to get clearances. It's a horrible scoring system. Okay, MMA. You like casual Fridays? We talk about a bunch of stuff. Okay, so I got my sheet up. And this has the RG ownership and projection in it, which will change because I don't agree with some of this stuff as it is. Okay, so overall, edge for tomorrow's MMA slate. Okay, it's a different edge. Every week it's always going to be a different edge. If you take a look, it's a very low-level card. I mean, this is a lot of the Ultimate Fighter like matchups. I think that this card used to have real fights on it, and then like I think like 6 or 7 fights got canceled over the past month, and they just added like Ultimate Fighter people onto this. So we can see here with inside the distance, like we have some 9K guys that have inside the distance probabilities that are absurd. 60, 68, 61% up here. We have minus 620, minus 45, minus 410, minus 265, minus 245. Like Di Chiricho, Justin Jacoby's minus 192. Remember last week's slate, there was no fighter that had odds to win that were higher than that. And they were 9,400, right? So we have a bunch of fighters up here in the 9K range that are vastly better from an inside the distance perspective than the middle range fighters. But the problem is you can't roster them. So we see this ownership here, like Petrosky, 55%, Muradov, 45%, Martinez, 48%. They will be between those 3 and the main event fighters are going to be the highest owned players on the slate. The problem is you can't play all 3 of these guys. You can't play 3 of them, which will always leave ownership open that it's going to come in under the inside the distance probability. That's why we can see here, they're the highest owned fighters yet they still have positive ratings in my little leverage model. Because, Petrosky's going to, I can't play Petrosky. He's going to be 55% owned. Yeah, but he has a 68% chance of winning inside the distance. He has a 48% chance of winning in round 1, which is like a 100-plus point score, pretty much. But he's only going to be 55% owned, right? Now, if we took out one of these non-K fighters, we took out one of Muradov, Petrosky, Martinez, then everything would start going to, then we'd see the ownership go up. Then they'd be 60, 70% owned. The problem is that we have 3 of those guys, and you can't play, you pretty much, I don't think you could play all 3 in the same line. So you have to choose between them. Then we have JJ Aldrich, the only women's fight on the slate. She's a massive favorite over this Vanessa Demopoulos, who looks awful. I mean, she's the worst rated fighter here because her chances of putting up 100-plus points is like barely, like almost impossible in comparison. But Aldrich is inside the distance is only 350. So like 350 for a $9,100 fighter is like an underdog range type of inside the distance. So she's going to go very low owned because look in comparison to these other 9K fighters. But she gets insane amounts of leverage by doing so. Now she will be in the winning lineup within 2 conditions. One is less likely and one is more likely. Aldrich would be in the winning lineup if she just quick win. Even though it's 625, 14% chance in round 1. It could happen. Look at Cheyenne Buys a couple of weeks ago. Head kick, first, 50 seconds in. KO. I mean, it could happen. And then Aldrich outscores Muradov, Petrosky, and Martinez. So that's one scenario. Or the scenario is that Aldrich puts up 95 points in a first, it does enough, has plenty of strikes, maybe gets a second round stoppage. And then these other fighters just go to decision. Like they just don't get there. Third round stoppage, and Muradov doesn't have enough volume, and he's sitting there with 82 points, and it's like, okay, 82 isn't bad, but probably not going to be optimal on a slate. He's 9,300, and Aldrich puts up 93, like something like that. But she has to beat out like 3 of the guys, 4 even Chirichio up here. So I'll probably be over the field on Aldrich, but I don't think I'm going to go nuts. I'm more likely to play Aldrich in lineups that have another one of the higher price fight. That one of these 3 do get there, and less likely to have the main event. Because we see here with these ratings here, the ratings on all these higher price guys or girls are high, and the ones on the underdogs are so low is primarily because of just roster construction. Like these underdogs are bad underdogs in comparison to their prices, but you have to own them in order to get. You have to. How are you spending 50,000? You can't spend it all over here. You have to take 1 or 2 of these guys. So they obviously didn't get ownership. I think the mid-range, I think the most likely scenario, most lineups are going to look like 2 people up here, 2 people down here-ish, and then 1 of the main event fighters. So people are going to go like Petrosky, Martinez, Barbosa, High Stand, Alvey, or something, maybe Daniel Rodriguez. Like that's what it'll look like, or Al Hassan. Because in the past, he's been like a round 1 knockout artist. Hasn't looked good recently. So how do you get different from that? I think you get different from that by doing one of 2 things. So remember that lineup construction. 2 guys from up here, 2 guys from down here, and something in the middle, right? The main event. So if you're going to play 2 up here and 2 down there, fade the main event. If you're going to only play 1 from up here, then play the main. Then you play the main event, and you play a couple of these tercios. If High Stand is going to be popular at 32%, is the biggest, the most popular underdog, playing tercios makes sense for leverage, and these guys are positive. I mean, look at all this red in the underdog range. The highest rated ones here compared to their current projected ownership is like Gilmore, 0.89. I mean, that's still barely there. Alvey, Salvatini. But typically in these ratings, typically I'm playing underdogs with like 0.8 and above. Sometimes I find like there's none that are underowned compared to their probability of success of a 100-point score. Like none of them. But this also wreaks out the fact that the most like you could glean out of this without running simulations, glean that the most probable winning lineup in a large field GPP is only going to have one underdog. This is a card that it's more likely that a high scoring losing fighter could end up in the optimal lineup. Right? Let's say all of those Muradov, Petrosky, and Martinez all win in the first round and score on average 110 points. And the main event, the fighter only scores 75. Like, how do you fit these three? Like, well, if Darren Stewart has, 23 points, 45 points as the highest scoring underdog that lost, that may be optimal. Does that mean you stack fights? No, I still don't do that. But just based on this, just got all these underdogs are overowned based on their projection, and all the favorites are underowned, but primarily not because the field is inefficient. The field can't roster these guys together. So they're going to have two lines. You have lineups that have Muradov, Petrosky, but no Martinez. You have Martinez, Muradov, but no Petrosky. Right? You can have a lot of those types of things, and that's going to make up the 45, 55, 48% ownership. This dead range over here is more like did Chiricho to Termon. Like this, Emmers up here like this. Now, does it mean, okay, let's just build a mid-range lineup? Yeah, that'll be contrarian. I still think it's going to be, just look at these odds. It's probably unlikely that all three of these high ITD guys fail. It's probably unlikely because there's three of them. So I think I'm more likely to have at least one in a lineup, and less likely to have the main event because the main event is always overall. This is another main event, not as much as last week, not as much as the week before, the slate before with Gahn and Lewis, but Barbosa Shikadze is more of a strike. Like this could easily be the most way to go is that they get 20 strikes apiece, 20 significant strikes around, and it goes to decision. No takedowns, no knockdowns, no nothing. So that's 100 significant strikes per fighter. You get 0.4 for them. That's 40 points total, plus 30 for the decision win. That's 70 points. So these guys are overowned for putting up big scores. The problem comes in is that they're in a range, 8,200, 8,000, that you have to fill anyway. So that's why I said if you're gonna play two guys, two of the high-owned guys up here, maybe you fade because you fade Barbosa or Chikadze. But if you're going down the middle, then maybe you do play the main. It doesn't matter that they're overowned. Like if you're fading Muradov, Petrosky, and Martinez in a lineup, do whatever the hell you want at that point. Who cares? Who cares about the main event being overall? Maybe Barbosa goes out and gets a first round victory. Who knows? But that's how I see it. Obviously, these are all updated for, as of now. Like I said, this RJ ownership, I don't necessarily agree completely with. Now, obviously, I'll be adding ownership from other places, projections from other places. Like is Aldridge? Yeah, I think Aldridge is going to be 13% owned. So I think Kevin Lou's going to be 33. I think it'll be slightly lower. I think Battle will be lower. I think Tercios may be lower. People are going to have to find underdogs to put in. I think people are going to go to Daniel Rodriguez, Brady Highstand, and Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I think more of that ownership is going to go there. I don't think Vanessa Demopoulos is going to be 18% owned. Like I have her as the worst. Like I think she's going to be like 12% owned, which still makes her the worst. But I mean, it's. I'm just saying that I don't necessarily agree with all the RG ownership as it stands now, but they'll update it. They'll update it later today. They'll update it tomorrow. So it's just all based on what I'm looking at now. But it shouldn't change all that much, right? These high green guys aren't going to just turn red, and none of these deep red guys are going to turn green. It's not going to happen. Charlie, go up. I'm sorry. This is called the DFS pregame show. So we talk about DFS strategy. You realize that everything I talked about MMA would help you in today's baseball slate. It's going to be very hard to cover a baseball slate where we don't have final ownership and we don't have starting lineups. We don't have final projections. So what are we supposed to talk about? If you have a question about it, sure. That's why it's up to you. That's why you put in, hey, on today's slate, X, Y, and Z. And you could do that. I mean, look at yesterday. I wasn't even planning on playing that early 3-game slate. I didn't. But someone was like, can you just take a look in which is the best place for leverage on that slate? Okay, let's look through it. Let's see. Brewers didn't work out. I said the Brewers are the White Sox, right? So you either stack against Gray or against Rio. The right answer was Rio, right? I think the right answer was another team. I don't think it would have mattered either way. But it wasn't the Brewers. That's why this is a strategy show. Grinders Live. You want to tune in at 5:30 for Grinders Live? They'll talk all the way through. Because you know why? 5:30? 5:30 Eastern time. We got all the lineups in. We got updated ownership projections and player projections and slate IQ and all the tools and everything like that is updated. That's why the first 15, 20 minutes we talk about yesterday's. We go over what sharp players did yesterday and review and learn how to apply that to any sport. Especially on Fridays, it's casual, which means, we got stuff coming up on the weekend. You'll see next month. Well, some days we'll talk about Showdown, NFL. There'll be basketball coming back. And MLB, in October, maybe the MLB playoff showdown, something. It's all up to you in the YouTube chat. I wasn't even planning on talking that much about soccer today, but someone asked. So I'm going to do it. But yes. So feel free to give the thumbs down button. That's perfectly fine. That'll help us out anyway. But everyone else, give me those thummy thumbs. Give me those thummy thumbs. Hit the subscribe button if you're new here. Notification bell to know when we go live. Grinders Live, 5:30. Then for premium members, crunch time, 6:30. So sign up for RotoGrinders Premium. $10 off your first month by clicking on the link in the description. And you get all of that. So good luck on tomorrow's MMA slate. Like if you don't realize why what I described for the MMA slate will help you in NFL, especially NFL Showdown, especially in Showdown type of contests. Like that's what you should be learning. So I don't play MMA. Like, well, what can I glean out of this? I mean, the simple thing is like, I glean just the simple concept of, there's certain metrics that measure success. Compare that probability versus the ownership. Like if you just got that concept, you'll probably be a winning DFS player. Like that's the biggest concept there is in all of wagering. What's the probability of an event happening? Am I getting paid more than that? How do I get paid more than that? By the field not playing them often enough. So that's why I could look here and go, JJ Aldrich still has a 22% chance of winning inside the distance. Only going to be 13% owned. I'm playing them. If Aldrich was 30% owned, I wouldn't. But it doesn't change the probability of it happening. It just changes what your opponents are going to do. The same thing applies to baseball. So you take a look at, the pitcher project. You take a look at the ownership and whatever. It's like how often does so-and-so get there that it's worth playing at that ownership? Right. So take a look at Wade Miley, 4% owned. Matz, 2% owned. Mania against the Yankees. I don't think anyone's going to go there. Right. 3% owned. I think Mania is a great play. Not because I think he's going to do well. I don't know what he's going to do. But if he's only going to be 3% owned, his success rate is maybe 10%. Okay? We put it into a probability. 10% of the time, he puts up 25 plus points. Right. We can even see here with the ceiling. That's I'm underestimating it. The ceiling is the 75th percentile in the bat. So what this is saying is that 25% of the time he scores at least 30 points. Okay? Well, he's only going to be 3% owned. That's way under 25, so you should be playing him. Here, Garrett Cole, 25% of the time he puts up 33 points. Well, he's going to be 33% owned, which means he's probably over-owned. Musgrove is probably over-owned. Odorizzi, maybe not, because you get the discount on his price, right? Nola may be more efficiently owned. Because look, his ceiling is 36. 25% of the time, he'll score 36 or more points. He's going to be 29% owned. So in comparison to Cole, Nola at 29% owned versus Cole at 33% owned is a better play in a vacuum. If you change this ownership, you do that, right? You go, oh, Nola's going to be 45% owned, and Cole's going to be 17% owned. You know what the better play is now? Cole. So without these numbers, without this, like there's no strategic assessment we could really make. And these numbers aren't, I mean, these numbers, we don't have the lineup. We don't even have the lineups in. So all these projections are going to change. Some guy's out of the lineup. This guy's going to face 3 more lefties, and then his projection goes up. And then this guy's out of the line. We have a hitter, right? That's out of Bo Bichette, who's going to be the most highest owned shortstop, is not playing anymore. Well, that obviously then some other shortstop starts moving up, and now all this other ownership changes. So what am I supposed to do at 11 o'clock in the morning when we don't have any of that information? We could make some conjecture. So if you have any questions, you could obviously ask. But other than that, it's kind of hard to go over any type of strategy without these numbers. But that's what they'll do. On Grinders Live later today, 5:30, crunch time 6:30. Give me those thumbs, and I'll be back. I'll be back again next week. Next week, discussing DFS strategy in any sport, primarily baseball since it's baseball season. But we'll be back for NFL, football. I don't play hockey, but I could talk NHL strategy if you wanted when that comes back. But that's what we do on this show on Mondays through Fridays at 11 o'clock Eastern for the DFS pregame show on RotoGrinders.com.